Inshallah, I would like to add a few things by way of conclusion. Although there are so many ahadith which have to be rightly interpreted and understood, because the messages they carry are for the future mainly. And if the Muslims do not understand the message, what is the purpose? They hear and hear not. They see and see not. That sort of thing happens. It's a very tragic thing for a people for whom the greatest of prophets came, and he came with Kausar, an unending fountain of wisdom. But if you do not drink of wisdom, what's the use of that fountain for you? Now, the loss, the suffering of the Muslims today is largely because of this. That is the point which I want to emphasize now. If you misunderstand the advent of a promised reformer, he would come and go and you would not recognize him. And you will repeat the same tragedy as had been repeating itself throughout the history of religion at the time of every prophet practically. So once you begin to do it, then there is a chain of evil continuation. The people before you have done it and you don't notice that, and other people come and do it and you don't notice it. For instance, when Jesus Christ came, why was he rejected? Because he was not recognized. Simply because of that. Because the expectations of the Jewish people were too literal. So they were committing exactly the same crime as the Muslims of today are committing. I can quote verbatim how literal they were, and how Jesus remained there, was born there, and before their eyes grew up and offered all sacrifices, and they still couldn't recognize him. And they still go to the Wailing Wall and strike their heads against it and cry and wail and beg Allah to send Jesus. He came and went, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came and went, Masih Maud, the third in the line, the Masih of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he also came and went, and they're still waiting. So I'll explain the dangers inherent in this situation and give you examples of how the same mistakes of history are being repeated. Now I'll begin with a few important similarities between then and now. When Hadhrat Masih alayhi salatu wasalam, Jesus son of Mary, came and announced that he is the promised Messiah, the Messiah who was promised to the people of Hadhrat Moses in that age. They refused to believe in him. Why? They raised some very strong objections against this. First of all, they said, we are awaiting a Messiah who will liberate us and lead us to a Jewish kingdom whereby we will be the rulers ourselves. We will no longer be slaves to a foreign people. This is what they understood from the prophecies in the Old Testament. I can't pinpoint where this was said and where that was said, but I'm telling you, this is a unanimous verdict of the Jewish world. That the main reason why they rejected Jesus Christ was that they were expecting a Messiah to come, who would come with sword in his hand, who would excite people to take a holy war against their oppressors, and he would lead them successfully to ultimate overthrow of the Roman yoke and liberate them from their slavery. From then on they will be independent people and so on. So they were expecting him also to have a crown over his head. He, the liberator of the Jews, would be a king himself. What happened instead? A very humble man of humble origin was born before them, grew before them, and said that I have come to liberate you from Satan. not from the low yoke of the Roman Empire. They were absolutely annoyed, and extremely angry with him. Must have been irritated. What does this man mean? We are awaiting a man who would liberate us from the Roman Empire, whose slavery we have suffered, from whose slavery we have suffered so much for centuries now. And here he says, I have come to liberate you only from Satan. And then, where is his throne? He's a man whom everybody insults, laughs at him, mocks at him, and he can't take his own revenge. So when we ask him, you have no power over anything, how can you lead us to victory and greatness? He says, I have a formula: forgive. And has so patience. Somebody strikes you on one cheek, offer the other. So they had a good laugh. What a liberator, While he was a liberator. Now the Muslims, if they look back, they know they can't say no to that claim. They have to support the claim of Jesus Christ and reject the claims of others. Now they are doing exactly the same thing to Hadhrat Masih IV. Knowing all this, knowing the folly of emphasizing literal wording, or the wording of the message overmuch, and to forget the message contained within. But they are repeating exactly the same thing. The other day, somebody who came from Pakistan to interview me on the issue about jihad, I said, why don't you compare Masih Islam's teachings as founded in the Quran with your interpretations? You say, because he said this sort of jihad or that sort of jihad was haram, so he has to be a British agent. That was his argument. It's just a very stupid thing. Number one, why should the British agent make a claim whereby he suddenly becomes the most unpopular man in the entire world of Islam by declaring that Jesus is dead? So, by the same stroke, he kills the God of his own creator, according to them. And secondly, becomes so unpopular that nobody would listen to him. And then the British have told him, all right, now claim that the jihad is haram. Who would listen to him? He was such an obstinate man. There is such a strong logic. Any man with a little common sense would understand it. But he insisted, no, it had its effect. On whom? Why did you listen to that man whom you thought was outside the pale of Islam, who had dared to declare Jesus dead? This was a crime you wouldn't forget. But anyway, they said, because he has not come with a sword in his hand, because he has not led us to an army of revolt against the British people, so he has to be their agent, and we are not going to accept him. So, see the similarities. Another, shall I continue or will you first?
Yes, please.
Yes. After having a discussion with this gentleman, otherwise he was a very decent person, but on this issue I was surprised. I really pitied the Christians, early Christians, and Hadhrat Jesus himself, who was confronted by people like him, who went on rubbing the same point without listening to the logic and argument of the other side. So I can go to this very interesting discussion which took place. I said, look here, first of all, I don't give the British, the credit of intelligence which you are giving them. On the one hand, they raise an agent, and on the other hand, make it certain that that agent becomes immediately so unpopular that everybody is after his blood. So what effect could he produce? He kept on saying, no, he did produce an effect. I said, what sort of effect? In fact, before this issue came to the limelight, all your mullahs were quiet. They were not launching any movement of jihad. So, did they stop because Mirza Sahib had said? Kept on, oh yes, yes, it created an effect. What sort of effect? I said, what stopped you, the whole Muslim world of India, to take sword and say, no, he's a liar, we are going to show you what jihad is. Where is that movement? Nowhere. But when they insist, they say, no, 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 I'm not satisfied, I'm not satisfied. I say, all right, Allah will make you satisfied or whatever He likes. But this is something which every man with common sense understands and responds to. Wherever I have spoken, in the outer world, in Europe, in America, etc., the Muslims who come even from Arabia and other countries, when they listen to this logical point, they all agree. I've never found one single different man, a single man with insisting, no, no, no. Still, I believe he was created by the British. And what was the purpose? They had their own God killed. They had the movement of Christianity, the passage of Christianity obstructed from spreading and conquering the entire subcontinent, India and Pakistan. Their own mullahs, I told him, your own mullahs had admitted in black and white that when Lefroy came from America, he came boasting that within a matter of a few months or weeks, I mean a little period of time, he would spread Christianity from one end of India to the other. And their own mullah, Munshi Nur Muhammad Naqshbandi, has written in the Hashia of that Quran. Ashraf Ali Thani, a great Maulvi of theirs. In his translation of the Quran and with slight commentaries, on the border of that Quran, this great Mullah again of theirs, Nur Muhammad Chishti, Naqshbandi, I'm sorry, Naqshbandi, he writes that when Lefroy came boasting like this, everybody was awed. Then Mirza Ghulam Ahmad got up and said, your God is dead. What are you talking about? I can prove it that Jesus is no longer alive. He said, with this instrument of logic, he made him run away from India within a matter of a week or so. He couldn't stand there. This is the British agent, imagine. Then I told him, look here, now I invite you to discuss the merits of the case with me. I will point out that the Holy Quran is on the side of Hadhrat Masih Islam. The Holy Quran, whatever it says, Hadhrat Masih Islam's interpretation was exactly the same. So you have also to admit then that the British people knew better Quran than your mullahs. They taught the Quran to Hadhrat Masih Islam because he proves to be right. I said, this is an open challenge. Why don't you show some common sense and decency and take up this as an issue? Take this up as an issue. What is the meaning of jihad according to the Quran? If we are proved to be wrong, then we are wrong, whether we are a British agent or a Jewish agent or anybody's agent. It doesn't make any difference. If the Quran is against us, we are finished. But if the Quran is with us, then whatever you all say, we will still remain God's agents and not the agent of the British. But we were in a hurry. At the end, he went on, rubbing in the same thing and saying, no, this is not true. What can you do to these people? Now I'm talking to you in relation to what happened to Jesus. After these experiences, such experiences, I pity prophets of Allah, who must have been confronted by people like these. They would say, yes, this is the argument. Say, no, we don't understand. Raise your voice and destroy the argument. This is their attitude. But anyway, the same style of opposition as was exercised in relation to Jesus Christ was again displayed and exercised at the time of Masih Islam. Another issue of Jesus' ascent to heaven. Now they insist that when you read somebody has gone to heaven and would descend, obviously you have no room but to take it literally. That man must have risen to heaven and must have returned back himself in person. And did Mirza Sahib descend from heaven, or was he born here of an ordinary human mother? The answer was, no, he never ascended to heaven. He was born here before your very view. You know it, that he was born an ordinary mother. And what was the name of his mother, please? The answer is Hadhrat Chirag Bibi. Chirag Bibi sir. Are you sure? We say, yes, of course we are sure. And what was the name of Jesus' mother? Maryam. So, and Maryam, son of Mary, is to return descending. And we said, yes. How could they be the same? And they laugh it out and mock and say, how stupid you are. The message is so clear. Instead of son of Mary comes son of Chirag Bibi. He doesn't descend from heaven, he is born here. And you say he's the same. How can we accept him? Now let's go back to Jesus, poor Jesus. God bless him. A similar thing was said in prophecies regarding the days when Jesus would come. It was said that Elia, a very well-known prophet of Israelites, who was born around between 800 and 1000 years before Jesus Christ, about 800 years before Jesus Christ. In Bible it is clearly written that he sat in a fiery chariot and ascended to heaven and is awaiting there for his return. He would return just before the advent of the Messiah. When Messiah comes, before that, this Elia, who had ascended to heaven, he would certainly descend. And it would be he who would prepare people for accepting Messiah as Allah's messenger. This was their faith, founded on very clear-cut messages of the Old Testament. Who comes here? Jesus Christ. Alone. There is no one who descended from heaven. And they are surprised genuinely, and they are shocked because they believed in the scriptures literally. So they went to Jesus and said, look here, we will accept you. Okay. But first produce the Elia. Don't you believe in scriptures? Jesus said, yes, I do believe in scriptures. Do you reject them? He said, no, certainly not. So where is Elia? Pointing at John the Baptist, not physically but indicating him, Jesus Christ said, John the Baptist, son of Zechariah, is the same Elia who was to descend from heaven. Imagine the Jews, how astounded they would be if they believed in literal coming back of Elia. And they mocked at him and laughed and said, look here, what are you talking about? What is the name of the father again, please? Is it the same name as Elia's father? He said, no. He is son of Zechariah. And what is his own name? Elia. John the Baptist. He said, John the Baptist, born to Zechariah, is the same man, Elia, with a different name and different parenthood, who has descended from heaven. Is this what you mean? Jesus said, yes. This is what I mean, believe it or not. Now the same argument, exactly, with the same force and the same mockery, is being used against Hadhrat Masih Maud as an instrument of rejection and an instrument of torture, mental torture to everyone. They remind us, Jesus, son of Mary, and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, not Jesus. Mirza Ghulam is son of Chirag Bibi. You think they are the same people? Has he descended from heaven? We said no. But he is the same, believe it or not. So said Jesus, indicating John the Baptist. He said he is the same Elia who was to descend from heaven. whatever his own name, whatever the name of his parents, he is the same who was destined to come before my advent, and he has come. And they rejected. So those who are rejecting Hadhrat Masih Maud on the same plea, they don't realize, and this is the consequence of a stupid argument. They don't realize that by the same stroke they have rejected both the prophets. Because if it is absurd to believe that somebody in some other name is promised to come and someone else in some other name comes to fulfill that promise, if it is as absurd and rejectable as they believe, then Jesus was also wrong at that time. So they should join hands with Jews. Then no Christ came for them. Because by the same argument of overemphasis of literal fulfillment of prophecies, they must reject the Jesus of old as well. Where is the logic in accepting him? Was any Elia descent from heaven before him? Certainly not. Show us where he did. So you better join hands with the Jews and start going to the wailing wall and cry to God, strike your head. Send us the first Messiah. Why have you promised us the second one? The first has not come. According to your word, he is proved to be a liar because he called John the Baptist Elia. He couldn't be that. So they follow neither the new one nor the old one. Both have gone out of their heads.
Although you said that they joined their hands, and the Holy Prophet said that they are following them.
That was that.
As
That's right. Yes. I mean, this is the meaning.
Yes.
When you understand the Holy Prophet's message, then you have it realized in the real life so clearly.
Yes.
It's astounding, and exasperating. Why can't they understand? There are so many other similarities, and they all indicate that once you fail to understand the message, you make mistake after mistake until you destroy your own interest and future, in fact. This is sort of mass suicide. Not to be able to recognize a prophet of Allah when he comes is extremely suicidal. Now, what happened then? The Jews were definitely not honest in their treatment of Jesus Christ. On the one hand, they laughed at him. They said, you say the teachings you have received from God is somebody slaps you on this hand, offer the other one, get beaten. Somebody takes the coat, also offer the shirt, or someone goes for a shirt, also give him the robe. He said, this is a meaningless teaching. It's a very abject teaching. It's not honorable at all. And you don't want us to be continuously being beaten by the oppressors? Now that is what they said to the people to excite their hatred against Jesus Christ. But when they went to the Roman Empire and their governors and representatives, they completely changed their strategy. Before Pilate, they didn't say that he is a very docile person, very mild in temperament. His teaching is absolutely, totally harmless. What they said, he is claiming to be that Messiah who was to overthrow the Roman Empire. So he is a traitor to Roman Empire. Hold him and destroy him. This argument is recorded in all the accounts of the proceedings. Differently, but basically it is the same. When Pilate refused to commit Jesus Christ to death by telling the Jews, if he has committed a religious crime of your own, then go and punish him according in your synod, religious synod. What have I to do with it? They said, no, if you don't do it, you will be also the traitor to the Roman Empire. Because this man claims to be that Messiah who was to overthrow the Roman Empire and liberate us from this. So on the one hand, they said different things. to the people, on the other different to their masters. Exactly the same attitude was taken by the ulama today, or the time of Masih Maud Islam. On the one hand, they incited hatred against him in the common people by saying, this man has abrogated jihad, he's destroyed jihad. He must be killed himself. That was the extent of frenzy gradually built up against him. Openly issued edicts of murder of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani. What sort of British agent they called? Who had forfeited his life for the sake of the British, and to what purpose? Nobody, who would listen to him then? When you ask them this, but I'll come to that later. Let me finish first this argument. The same people wrote long letters, of private secret letters, and some of them were later on published, to the British Empire and the Viceroy and the governors. Look here, you do not know how dangerous this man is. He is claimed to be the Mahdi. He claims to be the Mahdi, who is, according to our understanding, a bloody Mahdi. Don't take him for his words. Wait, and then you will see it will be too late. He will raise an army of Muslims against you. He will go take up jihad, take up sword against the British Empire. It will be too late. The custodians of Islam, the proponents of jihad, these ulama, they were taking this hypocritical, this dual position. On the one hand, they condemned Hadhrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad to death because he did not believe in raising the sword against the British. On the other hand, they were telling the British, don't accept his word. What he really means is to overthrow you. Exactly the same thing happened at the time of Jesus Christ. Exactly, no difference. When we asked them, what is the proof that he was a British agent? There is no sense in that, no purpose. But where is the proof? He said, proof, he has admitted it himself in writing. Have you discovered some secret? No. It's in published books, openly. Another problem. What sort of an agent is created? We also told the British to tell the whole world that you are a British agent. Then they will listen to you. Antagonize, make them hate you on religious grounds, and then admit it openly, writing in your own books that you are British agent. Then tell them, then they will follow. They won't follow the word of God, of course. They have not followed it by themselves. They know, if they know that this is the word of God, they should take up sword and start fighting the British. Because they have not accepted, so maybe they listen to the word of the British. So tell them who are you from. Tell them of your origin. Tell them, I have been rooted by the British themselves, so please listen to me. The jihad is allowed. This is their logic.
Okay.
I'm coming to this. It's very interesting. Now, what he wrote and why did he write it, I'm going to explain it. When these ulama wrote secret appeals and letters of condemnation against Masih Maud Islam to the governors, to the higher authorities, they started making inquiries. Who this man is? What is he talking about? Is there any danger to the British Empire from this man? They didn't know, according to these ulama, that British themselves had planted him and forgot. So short of memory, poor the British poor people. They forgot that they had themselves planted him. They started making inquiries. Deputy commissioners were ordered to find out who that man is, what his beliefs are regarding this and that. So when a threat was created against Masih Maud Islam and the followers of Masih Maud Islam, then he had to write, not that I am a British agent. He wrote to the British that if you are afraid of any threat of an armed rising from me, why do you forget that my family in the past, during your fight with the Sikhs, have been loyally helping you, not against the Muslims, against the Sikhs. They have been loyally helping you. So this family should not be made to suffer for what I do according to my own religion. And don't mix the two identities. I am a claimant to prophethood, to Mahdi, to the office of Mahdi, to the office of Messiah. The family I belong to are a family who has been supporting you throughout your fight against the Sikhs. So how could you expect that family to rise against you? So don't do anything wrong to them. That is one side of his claim which he made clear, and repeatedly told that you have nothing to be afraid. My teaching, he said, look here, why don't you study my teachings? I do not agree with the interpretation of these mullahs who are reporting against me these things, that Islam preaches the raising of sword against whoever is non-Muslim and destroying him by the might of your arms. Say, I don't believe in that. Read this. I have published so many books. It's all written over there. So why are you being misled by these reports? That was the reason and purpose of his whatever admission he made. But they say he admitted that he is planted as a Masih Maud or a Prophet reformer or a founder of a sect in Islam by the British. Now they are committing absolute lies. There is no ground in this, no foundation in this. What Hadhrat Mirza Tahir wrote about his identity as a religious leader, you know what he did? He said, as far as I am concerned, I am not planted by any human hand. And I make it clear to all who listen and all who read that I am planted by the hand of God Himself. Don't they read this? Don't they see the difference and the context of the both these claims? And he goes on challenging the mullahs. He said, look here, you are now propagating that I am a seed sowed by the hand of the British or anybody else. I claim that I have been planted by God and God alone. So if you think you are right and I am wrong, then God should be against me and He should take sides with you, because his is a plant of the British and there is and who attributes himself to God. So he should destroy me. But if you are worried why he doesn't destroy me, maybe he's become too lazy, maybe he doesn't care much about these things anymore. So to excite God's frenzy against me, His wrath, not frenzy, His wrath against me, you start praying to Him. Do your utmost by begging to Him, by crying before Him, like they're going to the Wailing Wall, you know, and beseech Him that, oh God, we are so excited with hatred of this man who is telling lies against you. Why don't you show your wrath? Why are you so, insensitive to insults to yourself? We are excited, you are not. So Muhammad said, go on rubbing your noses and crying in the sajdas, in the prostrations. And I tell you now that rub your noses flat and cry so much in your sajdas that your eyelashes are dropped and destroyed. And your sights are lost and nothing but holes are left there by overcrying. Even then, I tell you, you will not be able to do any damage to me, because I'm one who is planted by Allah, not by any human hand. So do it and try it and let's see what happens. What did they do? What happened? Ahmadiyyat is continuously on the rise and on the spread. From one lone voice in Qadian, it has become the voice of millions upon millions of people, spread over 150 countries of the world today. Is this the British agent? Then I told him, And the translation will take, we have to wait for tomorrow. I told him, look here, who obstructed the passage of Christianity in Africa? The same British agent created it in India? Why the agents of God are sitting idle? Why they don't work for the sake of Islam? So if you have a little common sense and some honesty, of course. This allegation is so absurd and hollow that no sane, honest man could even entertain it in a dream. Yet these people go on, rubbing the same thing over and over again. But now I have to take leave. I'm sorry, the audience will have to wait till tomorrow. Tell them.